Hello and welcome to the Dungeon Masters Guild House. This is a weekly podcast where I, your host, Matthew Whitby, sit down by myself and chat about, all good things around the DMsGuild and surrounding tabletop RPG space. Um, as I might have given away, this week is a bit of an odd one. I'm by myself this week, but by choice rather than out of we have a fantastic range of guests coming up in the next few weeks. But one of the things I did like last year or so, again, I would have to actually, it would have been helpful if I checked this out, but I took some time to kind of sit down and just kind of chat about what's going on. I guess this is a chance to kind of use my platform just to kind of vent and get myself out there. I've kind of got like a few things that I kind of want to chat about. I don't know if it's going to be the sort of full hour. Although again, if you're hearing this, you probably know how long I've managed to kind of blab and talk my way through. But it's just going to be chill, just you and me. We're just hanging out. It's just super personal. We're just two buddies. But no, so I guess first and foremost, what have I kind of been up to? It's always that weird mix with the show is what my intention for the Dungeon Masters Guild House is to try and use it as a platform to boost other creators, and just kind of get that sort of sneaky insight into their creative process, and just some of the things about what makes the sort of things that they design interesting, and where their sort of passion comes from. Where do they draw inspiration? What are some of the tips and tricks that people aspiring to get into tabletop design can sort of pick up on? And over the course of doing this, it has been a blessing to get to meet so many talented people and have them just sit down and allow me to sort of chip in when I can. But I'm kind of the first to admit when I'm kind of speaking out of my depth, which I think at this point, if it's not adventure related, it's probably a little bit outside of my forte. But I'm diversifying. I think that's kind of what's great about so much of at least working on the DMsGuild and with like a range of like products. You really kind of you get to kind of dip your toes in a bunch of different things. But I kind of wanted to chat a little bit about just some of my more recent products and some of the stuff that I've kind of got in the works. So the two most recent things that I've kind of thrown out into the guild in February was the Madame Eva's Taroka deck of Friends, Foes, and Fortunes, which was such a joy to work on, mainly just because it was like a huge team. There's Cat Evans, Lena Meyer, Nadine Ramey, Kai Linder, Brittany Hay, and edited by the fantastic RP Davies. As you can tell, I haven't prepared. The impetus kind of behind that is I love the Taroka deck in Curse of Strahd, and I wanted so badly to be able to do something with it. But there is something like, I believe, so there are 40 cards with, I believe it's 12, so 40 common deck cards and 12 high cards. And that is a lot of cards. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to try and use it to kind of, procedurally generate adventures. So it would be the case of like the first card you draw would be the friend. So this is the sort of the ally who would kind of help you along in the mission. The next card, the ordinary one. The first card would be the quest. So it would give you a random NPC. So let's say you drew the charlatan, and it'd be like, okay, well, this charlatan has a quest that they need help with. You draw the next card, and that lets you know who the friend is. Who is this other NPC who can perhaps help in some way. And because again, there were 40 different cards, there were so many different ways in which the seer would help differently from the thief, and the charlatan, again, even though they were a character, they could be a friend in another one. And then the last card being the sort of the foe, and then who is trying to stop you from achieving this quest in one way. And it's a very interesting way to write NPCs, because you're making NPCs that have to be versatile enough to be both friends, quest givers, and foes. And just with the shit, again, there being 40. Think of it this way: there's technically 120, because for each NPC, each of the 40 common cards in the common deck, they need to be a friend, foe, and a quest giver. So that's 120. And that's kind of how the collaboration kind of formed. It was mostly out of necessity. And I think that is something that creators sometimes just need to look for. You need to there are going to be those projects that are just unfeasible to do by yourself. And it's always that case of like, I could have, slugged through and chipped away at this, like doing one, I don't know, one a day. I just pull a number out of thin air. But through the nature of bringing on a team, you gain the benefit of you share the load, Mr. Frodo. The wise words of Sam. In the wise words of Sam Wise Ganji, and you gain the benefit of a collection of talented voices, or just a bunch of differing voices, which again come up with ideas that I wouldn't have thought of. So yeah, I think I'm very proud of Madame Eva's Taroka deck, and I think the people involved are as well. I hope so. But it's fortuitous timing, because when we were kind of working on that, the plan was to try and get it around the release of Revamped. But again, as you can imagine, with essentially 120 different things, the writing and the editing was nothing short of a gargantuan task. So again, a huge props to Bob or getting through that all. But now with, it seems, the sort of the Ravenloft product on the horizon, the what is it the Van Richten, Van Richten's book, or whatever it is. Wait, guide to Ravenloft. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. There we go. Got there in the end. I knew it was Van something. I was going to say Van Helsing, but it's close. I mean, it's based. So no, I not a subtle hint. Now, again, if you're interested in diving back into Ravenloft or the Curse of Strahd, then hey, this one is pretty good. And then other than that, yeah, the only other thing that I kind of released in Feb was the Oath of the Hurler, which in speaking about it, I realized Hurler has a few different definitions, depending within the UK, or at least where I'm from, people hurl things as in to throw. Hurling also means to throw up, essentially. So I think depending on who you're asking, Oath of the Hurler either sounds, whoa, that sounds really cool, or but that was like, again, it's the case of like so many products kind of stem from like a joke. And that's kind of one of them. I think it was like a throwaway game where, in one of my campaigns, I'm playing as a paladin, Glory. He is a paladin of Tempest, God of War, and they in the Tomb of Annihilation, which is a campaign, they used to be a strong kind of the pinnacle of their temples of warriors, but as a result of the Death Curse, their strength has dwindled. So now they're sort of returning back to their old sort of adventuring days. But I grabbed, I had my javelin in hand. I saw a foe that I wanted to smite from afar, and it's kind of, there's no rules that allow you to do that. I mean, smiting always has to be kind of with like a melee weapon attack, which it's a weird question. I think that's one thing that I kind of post to Twitter and just asking about is like, is by providing a ranged option to smite game breaking? And I don't think so. I mean, the general consensus was they don't think it is, just because the kind of balance is the thrown property doesn't necessarily add a huge amount of range. Thrown, again, there's melee attacks, there's ranged attacks. Thrown attacks are in that sort of middle range where the range isn't that flattering. You do still have to be fairly close, and normally with a thrown weapon, short of a javelin, you are within like charging distance. But yeah, I don't know. You just see, again, you have to look no further than the sort of like Avengers with like Captain America and Thor to be like, people just want to throw their weapons. It just looks cool. It's very sort of dynamic, and the idea of throwing something with such divine force that you can kind of smite with it. I like it. That's generally, you know, my stuff here. It's I like it, and I kind of want us to put it out in the world. But that's kind of going back to what I was saying about adventures. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit out of my narrative forte of sorts, but it's you know it's what I wanted to do. And it's nice to have those because it was a very quick project to throw together. Very much inspired by Kai Linder, who was the editor and also you know, just a fantastic sounding board to kind of bounce these bounce the ideas off of. And yeah, it's kind of all sort of coming together. So yeah, that was essentially the month of February. I managed to get those kind of 2 products out. What are my plans for, again, as a recording this start of March? A few things. March is a big month for Kickstarters that I'm involved in. So this episode may feel like it's sort of an extended advertisement about me and my products, but it's literally I can only really talk about myself. I'm Matt. That's what I know best. And at times I don't even know me that well. March is very exciting because there are 2 Kickstarters that I'm involved in. One is already going, and that is Diesel's, which is a fantastic. It's my first kind of experience working kind of a little bit outside of D&D. So this is I was doing some sort of narrative writing for a shockingly a non-5e system, and it's amazing. Diesel essentially is a alternate reality in which there is this thing called possibility, and it's essentially a sort of love letter to sort of Mad Max and those sort of Western sci-fi westerns like Firefly and that sort of thing, where basically there is a world in which technology allows for people to merge with diesel tech essentially. So they can have all sorts of like modifications, like wrist guns, like techno implants, huge sort of like hydraulic arms, legs. It's incredibly cool. The gameplay system, the mechanics are lovely. They're the sort of the right amount of crunch with a all sort of D6 based. The kind of design team behind the actual mechanics side of things did a fantastic job, because that's what's kind of great is I was handling the sort of narrative side. Steve Pankatai, who's the project leader, kind of gave me free rein to kind of go a little bit crazy with it, and that's how you ended up with like a combination of like a junkyard graveyard, as well as a stranded cruise ship, which is now in the middle of a desert wasteland sort of thing. That is now the SS Last Resort, which is also, funny enough, it's a bit of a resort itself. You know, it's got a casino. I do love me my puns. But in doing, you know, just the sort of the narrative writing, it gave me the chance to sit down and actually be involved in the playtesting, because I didn't have a hand in it. I just made the story stuff, and yeah, it was fantastic. I had a fantastic little group, and I guess what's interesting is Diesel is designed to kind of be shorter sessions, like I guess shorter campaigns, I suppose. You know, you kind of get the story out, and the characters you create are. They're not the sort of thing you go from like 1 to level. You have the character, they have these set amount of abilities, you go through their kind of story arc over the course of the episodes, and I'm sure if they survive, yeah, you can probably, you know, take them on to like the next one. But that's what I kind of liked, is like it kind of had this kind of like short-term emotional core that you can kind of drop in, try something cool. You see like, you know, the other players doing like charging things, they have like massive shields that kind of pop out their arms, or you know, people being sneaky or like sharpshooters, and then you're just like, oh, maybe my next character I want to be like a bit of a bruiser. But yeah, I think what was kind of great is with writing for 5e, while there is like a good amount of range for, you know, what you can write and what you can create, writing for like a different system, it kind of opens up options. You know, it is hard. It would be hard to write a story about a casino in the middle of a desert in like a cruise ship for 5e. I could do it. Well, now I know I can do it as a fan. And I think that's kind of the benefit of like stepping a little bit outside your comfort zone, and just writing for something just a little bit different. So yeah, that's the first Kickstarter that is currently undergoing, and again, it's starting to get there. Not fully funded yet, but again, as we're recording, it is only day 2. So it has a good amount of time to go, and touch wood, I'm touching everything that. But obviously, first and foremost, there are going to be links and stuff like that in the description for this. So if you like my podcasts, or if you generally are feeling I was going to say apathetic towards me, or just like generally neutral, at the very least, check it out. I would allow the product to speak for itself rather than my poor pitch. But yeah, over the next few weeks, you will probably hear me chatting about it again to kind of just keep hyping it up. It's that weird sort of thing where a project that you release for the DMs Guild is out there. You don't have to worry about it. Everything's you release it out to the DMs, and then you kind of do the promo to kind of get people hyped about it. With a Kickstarter, it's a bag of nerves because you're waiting for it to get that funding goal, and all this again. It's like an ongoing advertising campaign that you just have to like keep maintaining. So I don't envy anyone in charge of like a Kickstarter. I don't know. It scares the life out of me the idea of doing one. So I think it's maybe in my future. I never saying no to anything, but I rather let someone else do the worrying and the heavy lifting. I'll contribute to a Kickstarter. You got me on that one. But as for as for actually running or leading one, that's a bit like that's a big stress. The other one I'm on about is a continuation of the Cities of Myths series. So Ryan Walt Media or Ryan Langer is kind of continuing with this sort of expanded universe of started with Cities of Myth, Fallen Camelot, and now with the Cities of Myth Atlantis version, which again is very, very sort of exciting. It's these sort of fantasy retellings with their own sort of unique setting, kind of following off of folklore. My contributions to that were again mostly narrative driven and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting because being involved in the the Cities of Myth Camelot. It's kind of a case of as I joined the second role, Ryan and the team kind of brought in a fantastic collection of artists and other authors who are kind of more knowledgeable in Atlantean. I should know this. There's the or the myths and legends surrounding Atlantis, it kind of I took something of like a small step back, and I was kind of just like, okay, well, let me know who the characters, let me know what are the main things in going, and then I kind of run with it. And Ashley May, who kind of took charge and like again so much of the incredible lore with like the factions at play and the sort of the kind of varying types of government and how each kind of there's some fantastic sort of work that kind of went into kind of making all these different groups of because Atlantis as a whole is split into two. You have the above ground, the above the world of above, and the world of below, and they kind of have two different kind of competing. Well, they have two overarching groups of the above and below who kind of have competing ideologies on faith versus technology, and then you have all these kind of splinter groups within each of these two major factions that are maybe more lenient towards religion, maybe lean more on magic, maybe they prefer technology as a thing. So it's bustling with kind of life and this kind of interplay between this and being able to kind of come in and devise a 1 to 20 kind of adventure hooks, like a campaign idea, because I really like the idea of a campaign guide in a setting book, and it allows you to give like a bunch of different story seeds from 1 to 20, while having like a coherent arc, without going through necessarily the incredible amount of effort of writing the whole thing out, just because again a whole adventure book would be a book in itself. Whereas the kind of setting guide, you kind of want it to have just kind of, the all the information you need to kind of pick it up and run with it. So that is starting, I believe, on the 8th. So that's again, as the time recording, it's not started just yet. But I believe there will probably be, again, another link in the description where you can check and start following the page. Both projects, so much fun to kind of be involved in, and I consider myself honored to again be invited to take part in these. It's nerve-wracking. It's working a little bit outside of my comfort zone. There is more stress of just generally working on a project that you don't necessarily know is going to get funded, and just kind of hoping and kind of fingers crossed that it just goes out and gets in front of people. But yeah, they're both sort of fantastic projects. There's a good amount of words and effort and evening put into both of those. So yeah, that's the Kickstarter front. There is, I believe that there's one more on the horizon, but I believe I don't know if the date of that has been announced. Allow me to just double check to see if anything has been. No, okay. So the official date hasn't been announced yet of its release, but the Comets and Cockpits, which is another 5e setting going on Kickstarter, done by Cameron Day. That is another very exciting one. But I will not talk too much about that now because it's not out yet, and I'm going to be bombarding you with 2 Kickstarters as it is. Let's again. I'm going to try and balance it for you. What am I working on at the moment, though? That's a very harsh segue. I apologize for that. That's just how it is. Yeah, I've got some very cool stuff working on. I think for March, I think it's probably going to be 2 releases, at least 2 of my personal releases. I think at the moment there's a good number of projects that are kind of waiting to be kind of go through the act of layout and editing before everything kind of goes along in that front. But no, it's super exciting. The first one is an adaptation of vulnerabilities. It kind of stemmed from a conversation. So it's between me and Kylinder again. He's suddenly becoming my partner in crime. We were having a conversation about vulnerabilities, and they are shockingly underused. And also the way they're kind of implemented isn't the most satisfying. Obviously, again, seeing like a flaming creature and hitting it with water and knowing that it does double the damage can feel good. But there are a number of creatures whose vulnerabilities aren't so explicit, and it doesn't necessarily just feel that good to just know you've done double damage. So it's kind of like a 2-part thing. It's one part of okay, well, here are some exciting alternatives to vulnerabilities, which can take the shape of reducing a creature's AC, stunning them, blinding. Depending on for each of the 13 or so damage types, we provide a range of options that kind of if you hit a vulnerable creature with, let's say, necrotic damage. This is one of the things that can happen, and that kind of makes it feel more impactful because already you're doing damage. Now you're actually you're exploiting this creature's whatever its vulnerability. The other side of it is okay, well, let's take existing creatures and give them vulnerabilities, and not necessarily in the most traditional sense. So not just damage vulnerabilities to say, beholders, they've got a lot of eyes, so maybe they'll be vulnerable to piercing damage because if you do hit them in an eye, that's gonna sting a little bit. But adding kind of mechanics in place to say, well, actually no, there is if you hit a beholder, let's say with a crit or maybe with a an AC of 19, you can target one of the eyes, and as a result, the beholder loses the ability to kind of use one of their eyes. And that is just one way of including a mechanical supporting for all these sort of vulnerabilities, and then we kind of go off the other end of the spectrum and be like, here's some wacky vulnerabilities, like the Achilles heel. This creature cannot be harmed unless you hit them in the heel. which would be a nightmare to fight, I imagine. And again, it would require the character to be like, my name is Achilles. And they're like, oh, okay, we got to stab you in the foot then. Or I don't know, I'm sure you could do something more creative than that. But no, so yeah, so that's really exciting. So yeah, hopefully that is ready by kind of March. I'll be kind of hyping it up. I've kind of done a very sort of. I'm quite proud of the cover for it, which I will reveal at a later date. Maybe I'll put it in now. I don't know. I'll see how I feel as I go through the editing process. Presumably no. I think I'm gonna. I want the big reveal when the product is kind of out and ready to be kind of thrown out in there. And I believe I said there was something else. Yes, this something I was literally working on earlier today. That I don't know how I'm going to have it done by the end of March. It's probably very ambitious. But I want to do an adventure based in Longsaddle, which is a small location within the Forgotten Realms within the Sword Coast, which is kind of ranch based. It's kind of like a traveling point where a lot of people travel through. There's a good amount of cattle and horses. Most notably for I believe it's the Ivy Mansion, because it's owned by the Harpels, which are essentially a group of wild wizards, as family wizards who just do whatever they want. They're crazy. Some just, I mean, just the. I believe that's some of the second edition and earlier descriptions of them. That they care very little for Longsaddle as a town themselves, but they are the unquestionable kind of like authority of sorts. But despite kind of being, I think it's going to be two-part, because one, in my research of looking at Longsaddle, there's really not been there's nothing chunky. The Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide is kind of skims over a little bit, and there's no adventures or anything set within Longsaddle. So it's looking like it's going to be one part, hey, here's Longsaddle, here are all the locations, here's everything in it. And then on the second part, there's going to be like an adventure. And it's going to be, it's going to be a fun one. I think the high concept is you are following in the wake of a murder hobo party or a destructive adventuring party. And you kind of get to see, the worst imaginable group of heroes, the sort of damage that they could do. And you're kind of almost going in, kind of cleaning up, or trying to fix things before things get too dire. So those are the two things that I'm hoping to kind of have done in March. There's some other things in the work that I don't think I'm at liberty to talk about yet. Which that's how it always be. Again, not an NDA life. I think that's going to be that's how I know I've made it. That's my kind of my claim to fame, where I can say I've literally signed an NDA. I can legally not disclose some things about the project. But yeah, I think that's some of the things that I've kind of got working on at the moment. It's been a busy time. And again, I'm very much looking forward to getting back to doing some adventure writing. I think I want to do another sort of items and encounter. I had plans for Icewind Dale, but then I might pivot and focus on Candlekeep, just because that's a new hotness that is coming out. Which at this point it probably would be a little bit late to the party, but that's fine. Yeah, again, I've never released any. I've always been notoriously bad at releasing anything on time. But yeah, I think I think things collectively, again, kind of surveying my position as a creative, I guess, and kind of where I am I'm happy where I am. I'm kind of proud that I'm coming up to like my 2-year anniversary to only be in this game in the tabletop RPG game for like 2 years. I think I'm comfortable in where I am, and I think there's still a good amount that's kind of pushing me to do more. There's stuff that I want to do. There's milestones I want to reach, and I think I'm just kind of keep telling myself that it's going to come with time, and I think it will. It's a combination of I think it will, I hope it will, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, but yeah, I just want to put stuff out there that I'm proud of, and and do some stuff for me. As fun as working with all these collaborations are. They take time and effort, and sometimes it's nice to be like, I did this for me. And sometimes things don't sell as well. That's another thing. It's like it's so difficult when I know for a fact that I have on this podcast been saying, you really shouldn't attribute, any sort of feelings or understanding of success to the sort of sales of a product, which for the most part, I think I'm getting better at. But occasionally, there's the long time in between sort of like medal milestones. They can take a little bit out of you, especially if you're like refreshing every day. You're keeping on track of it. Like, come on, just tick over. Wow, this got again. How I mentioned towards the start that this is going to be this is now I'm using it as a form of therapy to kind of get out my insecurities. But no, I'm happy where I'm at, and again, just kind of the big part is seeing where I was this time last year, and kind of a lot of the things that I've kind of been keeping up with. I'm on the fence about maybe starting something like a newsletter, maybe like a bi-weekly newsletter to kind of keep all my releases, and just because all the cool kids are throwing together newsletters, and I just kind of want to be involved in things. But it would be a good place to let people know, keep them up to date about these podcasts. I do a random encounter Monday, which I've managed to keep pretty consistent at the moment. I think we're on like week 26. Yeah, I think 26, where each week I take Cobble Fight Club, I generate a random encounter, and then I write that up for publication on D&D Beyond. Completely free, just for fun. I post the prompts up online to try and get people involved. I think it's a really fun design challenge. I think it's kind of helped with kind of my creativity, because I've kind of been trying to each encounter that I design, I try and think of 4 things. I think it's the Brandon Mulligan kind of school of thought. It's like, you need a cool location, you need something in the environment for the players to interact with. It would be nice if there's a timed element, and you need to allow for not necessarily non-combat solutions, but there needs to be things to interact with that aren't necessarily I hit the thing with the sword. And I think by consistently doing that each and every week is again, there's some weeks that are strong, some weeks that need a little thing. It's only kind of improving. I hope it's only kind of improving my designing chops, if I can call them that. And I highly recommend anyone kind of participate, or but I mean, 9 times out of 10 it is me just creating them and throwing them out into the void. I've been started posting them on the D&D Beyond forum, and it's kind of nice that there is like a small group of like 3 to 4 people who rather consistently post their ideas each and every week, which is lovely. And again, that's what I need. I just need one person to respond. I just need one like. I just need to know that at least someone's kind of seeing it to get that validation, get that serotonin. That way I can sleep soundly at night and not cry myself to sleep. But yeah, that's kind of a pretty, again, I feel like, I don't know how long I've been talking. I think it's been close to 40 minutes of just blabbing. So I'm just going to quickly, don't mind me, because I can feel my throat just going dry. And one of the things that you don't necessarily notice, like in a podcast, other people talks, and while they're talking, you can get some sneaky sips in. I haven't been able to get those sneaky sips in because it's only you and me in this very, very intimate, very personal podcast chat. I think that's kind of the most chunk that I kind of wanted to talk about. I guess it was just kind of like, again, just a touchstone point to be like, this is where I am right now. Mentally, how am I doing? All right. It comes and goes. I think I haven't necessarily spoken about this too much, but my job, it's not really a job, but I'm a PhD student. And as such, I'm now kind of entering my third year, which is a considerable amount of writing up and taking the results of my studies and trying to turn them into publications. It can sometimes feel like a slog. And I guess the fact that, why sometimes I see the tabletop RPG thing, writing as an escape, because the words for tabletop RPGs flow easy. They're fun to do. The kind of PhD side of things is like there's two sides to the brain, and I don't know. It feels more isolating to write for my PhD. Because again, I'm the only person I know doing. Well, I'm the only person doing my research. In that, my particular thesis, which is going to have my surname on it. If someone else was writing my thesis with me, that might be, a little bit more enjoyable. But I think that's against my university's terms of service. But no, it's good. We're reaching some interesting points where, so my thesis, I guess, aim is to look at how games, digital games in particular, challenge people's perspectives. And what my angle is I'm not necessarily trying to, I am trying to fully understand what the experience of having your perspective challenged by a game, but I'm also kind of pivoting towards, okay, well, if this is a phenomenon, well, this is a commonly occurring phenomena, how can we intentionally design for it? So now I have my sort of D&D writing, and then I also have my thesis writing, and with my third study, they're kind of blurring into the middle of this horrible homunculus of just no, it's actually the best of both worlds. It's it's research through design, which is weird. It feels like it's crossing the wires of like I'm in my design mind. I don't need to I don't need to cite sources versus like there is a process, and there is a scientific method to everything. But it's very exciting. Again, I've always mentioned that the only one of the main reasons why I'm doing a PhD is just to be Dr. Video Games, which again doesn't come with many job aspirations afterwards. But it is cool. It is it'll go down well at parties. The current non-existent parties. But when they open, oh boy, I'll be telling everyone that I'm Dr. Video Games. Be swooping in with my cape, Guitar Hero controller. It'll be the bee's knees. But yeah, I think collectively, I think everyone's kind of been in the same boat, and of just feeling kind of the quarantine fatigue. I again, if you're listening to this, I hope you're doing well. I guess it's easy to preach and to be like, just be easy on yourself. Because I know there's been days where I haven't particularly been the easiest on myself. But I think through telling you, by telling you need to be, give yourself some time if you need it. I'll listen to that as well. I probably won't, but there's a slim chance I might. In some of my favorite things to say, bitch, I might. Yeah, again, this is probably going to be, again, much like it was the first time I did one of these. Is I literally went through the kind of DMsGuild house questions and kind of went through and answered them. This one is very much off the rails. I'm curious to see how it'll go down. I mentioned this over the Christmas period as we hit the 52nd episode. Thank you so much, everyone who takes the time to listen to these. A shout out to the people who take time to comment, retweet. Phil Kearney, again, I can't say thank you enough for all the kind of efforts you do in kind of promoting and engaging with the content. So this is your own sort of special shout out. You 100% deserve it. But for everyone else, when I started this, I didn't necessarily have any sort of higher aspirations. But for me, it's nice to have something something to look forward to every week. I just know every time I look down and I look at my calendar and I see that I've got, an interview, typically towards, late in the evening to kind of catch the US designers. It fills me with a good energy. I'm honored to be in this position to chat to people. I'm honored to be, have people engage and listen to me blabber and generally make a fool of myself. So yeah, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for thank you for enabling me. But removing the shell of comedy, I'm stepping out of my safety bubble. Yeah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening. I don't know if I necessarily would still be doing this if it was just continually throwing out to the void, but yeah, I appreciate people taking an hour of their time to listen to these and especially those who again, hearing people say again, I'm going to that point where I'm hearing people shout to me saying, oh yeah, no, I listen to your stuff and I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know. I know there are people listening, but my gut reaction is that I'm still just making these for myself. So there was a point in there somewhere. I've lost a point in probably all sense of the term. Suffice to say, thank you. To everyone listening for the supporting over the year and into this one. I don't plan on stopping. This isn't a goodbye. Again, I will. Yeah. If they do stop, something's gone horribly wrong. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing them. And obviously, I think with this episode in particular, because it's just me. If you know of anyone that I haven't spoken to, and you just know that they would be a fantastic person to talk to, I've always said anybody and everyone is welcome on this show. Sometimes it's I try to get a healthy mix of people that I approach and people who kind of voice their interest in coming on. But as I said, anyone and everyone is welcome. I just want the opportunity to kind of let them chat and come down and speak with me. It's yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm you can see that I'm starting. This is me attempting to kind of wrap it up and bring it all together. But yeah, I'm going to keep doing this for as long as there's people to chat to. And when I hit the point where I'm going back to people for a second time, who knows? I haven't had to do that yet. There's so many people out there, and again, I think it may be another year or so before I have to go back to that well. But yeah, I think what that probably feels like a good point to end. I've done a lot of rambling. In summary, to find a sort of conclusion to my episode. I'm so ecstatic to be part of this community. Thank you to everyone who's made this community a home for me. That's all I can really say. I've been Matthew Whitby. At this point, I think I now know who I am as a human being. I've managed to talk through this 45-minute or however long it is, the therapy session. You can find me at Whitby Writes, where you can hear about those upcoming things that I alluded to earlier. And how do you end a podcast?